It looks like, my fellow Americans, it looks like some things have changed. Are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents?
You want an abortion? Get one!
Younger parents aren't sure that an appreciation of America is the right thing to teach modern children.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
When I drive into a neighborhood and there are American flags, it's a message of white supremacy.
I'm warning of an eradication of the American memory that could result in an erosion of the American spirit.
We need to completely dismantle the police department.
If we forget what we did, we won't know who we are. We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is freedom, and freedom is special and rare. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise. As long as we remember our first principle and believe in ourselves, the future will always be ours. Ours was the first revolution in the history of mankind that truly reversed the course of government, and with three little words: we the people. We the people are free.
We've got the basics. We have millions and millions of people call here and now. Rush, you always told us. You told us when it's going to be time to panic. Well, is it time to panic? Well, let me just tell you, folks, it's never going to be time to panic because we're never going to give up. We're not going to give up on America. I'm not. I don't think most of you are either. And while we have that attitude of not giving up, we are constantly going to be searching, strategizing, coming up with ways to prevail. We've got the basics. We have millions and millions of Americans that are fed up, can't wait to do something about it. There will be a series of ideas that people come up with based on dealing with the fraud that we know we have to deal with. But America's worth it. America is worth fighting for. America's worth not giving up. And that's why I think whatever form it takes, we will continue to fight for and to defend and to triumph. I know the odds are, they're stiff and they're steep. The American left is made up of a lot of people that hate this country. Hate is a very, very destructive frame of mind. It's a very, very destructive characteristic. And eventually it results in implosion. You cannot survive on hatred. You cannot sustain a movement based on it. We just need to be patient while being vigilant and continuing to fight for what we believe in, knowing full well that we can prevail.
Amen. Amen. Some of my role models, I called in some of my role models from the internet to give us some wisdom, to talk about the truth. Is it time to panic? What's going on? There seems to be a lot of chaos and confusion. My friends, we are living in a very good opportunity to bring the antidote to chaos, as Jordan Peterson would say, or as Jesus Christ would say, preach the gospel. Bring the good news to all the people. See, Rush was not wrong. He was documented to be right 99.7% of the time. He wasn't wrong. I still got flies in here, by the way. Hate is a powerful thing, and it will lead to destruction. Bible talks about that. You see that throughout history, human history. So the answer is, what do we do? What's the outcome? What's the response? How do you address a culture, a society full of hate. We're going to get into a couple different things today, but I advance one idea and one idea only: the truth. Always, only, and ever the truth. The truth is a powerful weapon. It's dangerous because it cuts through the most carefully constructed schemes, the greatest concoctions the human mind can pull together, all the PhDs and all the money and all the veneers presented to you in pearly white teeth and powdered makeup and professional lighting and good sounding voices and all those other things. The truth penetrates. It cuts. Can't be stopped. Now, I think over however long, I don't really want to put a time to it, the truth is increasingly becoming difficult to communicate for a couple different reasons. The most important reason that I would consider, that I'm going to say, I'm not going to push blame. I think the reason why the truth is so difficult to portray is because we're afraid of it. We're afraid of either saying the things that are true, we're afraid of either speaking about what those things are and afraid of the blowback, afraid of the pushback. And as a result, we don't say the things that are true. We don't do the things that follow and behave as though they're true. And so as a result, we are muzzled, we're muffled, we're silenced. We have our behavior modified because we're afraid of the truth. And do you understand that these godless commies, using nothing but words, are able to control? I have a lot of messages. I'm inundated. Emails, Facebook messages, Twitter things, private messages, Rumble messages. I get so many messages on Telegram. People talking about how they're going to lose their job, how they're going to be forced to take an inoculation that they don't want. And I want to investigate that today. So I want to ask the question, is it time to panic? And of course, we're going to be answering the question in the negative. No, it's not time to panic. I'm going to echo what Rush has to say, but I'm going to build on that. I'm going to echo what Ronald Reagan has to say, but I'm going to build on that. But first, I am Jarrin Jackson. I am the Jarrin Jackson, and I do love our America. I am a Bible-believing Christian, constitutional defending, patriotic Rush Limbaugh baby. Linwood, multiple time endorsed. At this time, it's like affinity times endorsed by Linwood. Trump supporter. Those biases are important because those biases are not only, that stupid fly, those biases are not only important because they're not only about what I think and how I proceed and how I frame things. This fly, man, I'm telling you. It's important because that's how I see the world. That's how I engage things. But that's also the way that I advance truth. It's not just my opinion. Of course, these are my biases that shape my opinion. But you understand that truth doesn't change. And so the way that you acknowledge and engage the truth is the way that you acknowledge and engage the world. If you deny it, then you're denying the reality that you're in. You're trying to construct something that for yourself. I believe and I try to base every thought on the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And whereas I used to think that that was impossible and irrelevant and dumb and stupid, why are we going to get churchy, Jarrin? The more that I think about the sexually depraved, porn addicted, broken home, depressed, suicidal, tense world that I'm in, the culture, the society, all the things that are broken with this world, I'm like, there's only one reason. There's only one thing that's going to bring all this together. What are we going to go to the Republicans? We're going to go to the Republicans? The people that are like, oh, did you hear that clapback? Did you hear that this person had on this guest and they said the things? And they said the information. I just got to share this information with people. I'm about done with sharing information. Though that's going to continue. That's part of it. At this point, stupid fly. The godless commies are these flies. I'm over here trying to say stuff, and these godless commies are buzzing around. We're going to get to the idea that whenever you actuate, whenever you think about how the gospel integrates to every little crevice of your life, it's applicable everywhere. Do you understand that when you go to sleep, that's a picture of you dying? When you wake up, that's a picture of you resurrecting. Sleep, I believe, from a theological perspective, is to show that you can't self-sustain. You have to rest. It is proof that you are mortal. So for those people who are like, well, I'm powerful and I'm rich and I can do whatever I want, you still sleep. And for a good chunk of the day, you are unconscious and you have no choice. You have to do that. You are submitted to the flesh, the tent that you live in. There's other examples. The sun going down, the sun coming up, that's the death, the burial, the resurrection. that every single time you blink your eyes, if the eyes are the window to the soul, then every single time you blink, you are resetting your frame and the engaging posture for reality. Every single time you blink, you are opening up your eyes to the world that's around you. That is a death, the burial, the resurrection. You are continually the cycle of rebirthing process, the resurrection process. I think God has designed everything in creation to point to himself. It's just a matter of, do you have the mind to see it through those lenses? And in this time of chaos, murkiness, confusion, tumult, there's really only one thing to point to. Now, I agree with the attitude of not quitting. I agree with the attitude of using humor and being creative and coming up with ideas on how to overcome these godless commies, because they're not innovating, folks. Their playbooks are becoming open and easy for people to see. Sneeze. That's how you know we're live. These godless commies playbooks. Get out of here, Fly. Get out. It's stupid. I'm trying to be serious, Fly. I'm trying to be serious. Roll the rock. Let's get going. This Fly is ruining the vibe. All right, let's just have fun. Let's go. You know what? This Fly is a godless commie. So I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him tonight. But he's buzzing around, so I got something to do. But I'm gonna try to get him in the middle of doing stuff. Let's roll the rock. Let's get to the update. Stupid godless commie Fly. You want to know how you fight back? I got this message. Probably not even an hour ago. Maybe an hour and a half ago. Get out of here, Fly. Becca Grace. You know who Becca Grace is? She's someone in this audience. That's Becca Grace. Right? That's her husband to the left. That's her daughter there. That's her in there. And that's some person, I think her name was Shannon, to the right. These are people in New York. That's right. Party ticks, sex pedophile, going to be investigated criminally. Mario Cuomo, or Andrew Cuomo's state, New York. These people are out there protesting. No masks, no mandates, no lockdowns, no election frauds. They are preempting the gall of these racists. The gall of these bigots, the gall of these people to preempt the Never Again rally. By the which way, I got to get approval by Parks and Recreation, so when they get off their emails and they get back to me, we'll do it. But the Never Again rally, no more election fraud, no more lockdowns, no more mandates. Why are we being told what to do and then just going along with it? The day and age of the rule of law in America is no longer synonymous with someone says something and other people do something. See, that was the arrangement we had before you stole the election. That was the arrangement we had before you took our dollars, made a weapon in China, released it to the world, lied about it, and then whenever it fuses with other antibodies and the spike proteins and all the stuff, whenever it does all that stuff, you've lost my trust. You don't have it anymore. We're going to get into how to push back. We're going to get into how to do something. But this is Becca Grace. This is a very short video of her live local, pushback rally that they're doing in New York. God bless you, Becca Grace. Watch this. Yeah, look at all those nobodies. Look at all those nobodies. And to address the skeptics in the back. Not you, but the skeptics in the back. You know, the trolls in the comment section. They're always like, Jarrin's got such a glorious beard. I hate him because he looks so awesome and his teeth are so white. Shing. There's like those people. Those people are like, oh, they're not doing anything. They're just standing around with signs and waving flags. It's like, listen, homie. The more that people do that, the more that the godless commies are going to be like, okay, we don't have control. Rand Paul today himself tweeted out, just resist. See, these godless commies put resistance to Donald Trump as soon as Trump got in office. They never gave him a chance. But we're not resisting because we disagree with politics. We're resisting because we deny a deceitful scheme, a godless commie crafted satanic presentation of reality as truth. I deny what Klaus Schwab and the Luciferians of the World Economic Forum want to do. I reject their premise. I deny their advances. And we are going to start to use all the tools in our tool chests, all the weapons, metaphorical, philosophical, not actual real weapons, to our disposal. We're going to resist. We're going to overcome. And how does this look like? It looks like people with dirt in their cuticles, even those of us who chew the nails and pick at them constantly. The little people like that are going to stand up and do something, that's what it's about. And this is what we're going to do. So I'm going to roll through this Whom update. And I'm going to show you the dichotomies. Because these godless commies are prepping some pretty big body shots. They're prepping some pretty big body shots. And at the very end of this this live stream, I want to ask a question. So that's only for people who want to stay. Whenever I ask a question of you guys, I'm going to present an idea. I want to ask you a question. But that's going to be at the very end. Part of this is Jen Psaki, circle back, printed out a thing where she says 23% of new COVID hospitalizations in the U.S. are in Florida. And their hospitals are being overwhelmed again. We're doing everything we can to help the people of Florida. And they're stepping up, getting vaccinated. We hope our Governor Ron DeSantis joins us in this fight. Now, this is a godless commie stepping in it, going out of her way to interdict into one of the best governors in the nation, one of the freest states in the nation, and this is what Governor DeSantis had to say in response.
Why don't you do your job? Why don't you get this border secure? And until you do that, I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you. Thank you.
Look at those guys. Why am I showing you this? Why am I showing you this? Right now, you're probably like, okay, Jarrin, this doesn't do anything. Why is Jarrin showing me this video of DeSantis saying, I don't want to care a blip about what you're saying? I like DeSantis. He's done a lot of great stuff. He needs to be stronger on abortion. He needs to be stronger on LGBTQ. He needs to obviously call for election fraud, as Lynn Wood is saying. But why are we being shown DeSantis? Why is DeSantis the guy that's being called up? Now, I've called him future POTUS, and I think his star is bright. But do you not understand that this is a left-right dynamic? Do you not understand that this is an us versus them? This is a tribalistic mentality. And if you are not careful about how you think about stuff, you fall into this perspective. You fall into the perspective of, yeah, you suck. And if you do that, it's going to be us versus them, and we're not actually going to be talking about anything. And then those guys behind, they're like broing it up and dapping it up. It's like, yeah, he told him that. Really? We're just using words. In this case, Jen Psaki, circle back, just did a tweet. She just did a tweet. So now you've got clickety-clacks on the little mobiles, British, and sending the stuff in the digital, and then the stuff that's being sent in the digital, people see that stuff and they're like, okay, this came in through my eyes, because you're not even hearing the godless comedy circle back say these things. You're reading what she's saying. And so the digital is coming through your smart device, or your dumb device, your slave device. It's coming through your shackle, and it's coming through your shackle into your eyes, and it's jostling around up there. And then the expectation, because this is a back and forth like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, the back and forth is, she called out Governor DeSantis. I wonder what he's going to say. And then Governor DeSantis, rightly I think, pushes back and says, basically, you suck. But think about that context. Why is that a competition that I'm paying attention to? Why am I thinking about, what did Psaki say? What did Joe Biden say? What did these guys say? What did this guy say? What did this guy say? I hate that, because I think it enslaves you. I think it's in your eyes, in your ears, dominates the key terrain for the prize of the soul. And the reason why that's so effective is that that's the repetitious cycle. Because anybody can do a clap back. Anybody can get back at somebody and tell people, oh, you suck. Did you get the Jews? Ben Shapiro destroys leftists. And it's like, yeah, that's the type of conservatism that's actually destroying our country. Because it doesn't direct people to anything that's fruitful or productive. Becca Grace is doing more for America and spreading the cause of liberty and freedom, defending her rights and pushing back against the godless commies by standing on a street corner with a stupid sign that says whatever. It's not stupid, Becca. I apologize. I'm getting ramped up. But she's standing on a side of a road with a sign that's like, no more lockdowns. She is doing more there than these people with their suits and their ties behind their podiums and the cameras doing the back and forth. It's like a volleyball match. It's like boom, boom, or tennis, boom, boom. We're not there. I'm not there. You know where I'm at? I'm going to stand firm. I'm going to stand firm. I'm going to tell people what's up. In fact, the Arizona State Legislature, after being denied their subpoenas, this is Senator Santabarelli. Hey, Tony, where's my pizza? He filed out for the Office of Arizona Attorney General. What this is, it's basically saying that the godless commies are refusing our subpoenas. Non-compliance. It's a valid subpoena from a legislative body, and you guys are denying it. Now, this is a Class 2 misdemeanor, straight up. If they subpoena Dominion, they did. If they subpoena, what was his name, Sellers, Mark Sellers, or Jim Sellers, the director of Maricopa County Board of Directors, and they did. And both of those people sloughed off the subpoena from the Arizona State Senate. That's a Class 2 misdemeanor. So now you've got an issue where you've clearly broken the law. You've clearly violated what's going on. And so you look at this, and there's the skeptics that are going to be like, okay, well, this doesn't do anything. You don't understand. The people who have perpetuated the systemic transnational treason, the election fraud, the bioweapon, the deployment of all these godless commie assets, they did not expect you to fight back. They expected you to continue to watch television. They expected you to get your tattoos in your arm. They expected you to quit. What Rush was saying at the opener, you don't quit. And do you not understand? You are already in the process of not quitting. And by not quitting, you're doing something that they didn't expect you to do. They did not expect you to continue to do what you're doing. But you're continuing to do what you're doing. You gotta think how frustrated they are. You gotta think. You know what? Do we need a black hat? Do we need a black hat? You know what? You gotta think how frustrated these godless commies are. You gotta think how frustrated these godless commies are. They did not expect people to be pushed back. You know what? Let's try a black hat. Let's try a black hat. We got a white hat here, and the dog got a hold of it. So the dog got a hold of the white hat, right? So there you go. Dog got a hold of the white hat. Tore a hole in it because I left it on the tractor, and dog climbed up on the tractor and got that. And then you got a black hat. Okay? So you got Jarrin in the black hat, and you got Jarrin in the white hat. Does that make sense? Okay. Bad guys, good guys. Bad guys, good guys. Jarrin doesn't mean what he's saying here. This is supposed to be meant with sarcasm and stuff that I don't believe. This would be, yes, it's generally a good thing, and you should believe what I say when I say this, okay? So I might think about doing that here in a later show. I just have them there because I was cleaning the orifice. And anyway, but you have to understand, they did not think that you would quit. Or they thought that you would quit. And because you haven't quit, they're running out of options. And what I want to do to you, what I want to do for you this evening is I want to lay out, I think, the major punch that they're starting to telegraph. I can't prove it. I've got no inside sources. But this is what I think's going on. Let me present to you a case, right? I'm going to present to you a case of the punch that I think's coming, the godless commies, what I think's going to come, and then I'm going to present to you how you can push back starting meow, but also moving forward. Make sense? Okay. Here we go. First thing starts with Dr. Anthony Fauci, and I had some people say that they don't like the sped up thing, but I sped it up, and I think you can hear it. I mean, my hearing's pretty bad too, and I can hear it. But this is what Fauci had to say 2 weeks ago about a national mandate with masks and lockdowns. Listen very carefully to what he's saying. Watch this.
I don't think you're going to see a central mandate. I think there will be a reflex pushback from that. But what I do see in the future are local mandates, local businesses, local universities and colleges, so that if people want to do things and be able to participate in activities, they will get vaccinated by a mandate. But I don't believe that it will come centrally from the federal government.
What is he saying? Asked a question, late July, you think there's going to be a national mandate? No, I don't think there's going to be a national mandate. I think it's going to come from the local. Here's the setup. He didn't deny that the mandate was going to happen. He said that it's going to be happening on the local level. Okay, so if this is godless commie Anthony Fauci, and again, he's a liar, so what can we know? But here's I'm going to build it up. Premise one, the mandate will be locally driven, not federally driven. So the federales, the people at the up top, they're gonna Pontius Pilate their hands and say, well, it wasn't us, it was the local authorities. It was the local authorities. Premise one, future lockdown will be locally driven. Premise 2. People will be fired for non-compliance. Let me demonstrate. This is late July. This is New York Post. Says that people have been fired for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. This is New York Post, July 21. Here is another one. Says healthcare workers. This is from Forbes. Says that healthcare workers, this is a long time ago actually, getting fired. This is from April. Refusing to, getting fired. And here's where it's going to go into the office workers. Here's where it's going to go into the private sector. Why am I showing you this? Because they are telegraphing months ago, weeks ago, that people were going to be fired for non-compliance. If you're being fired, is that at the federal level or is that at the local level? So phase 1 of the local mandate is going to be employer firing people. We'll get into the responses. I'm just trying to lay out the argument, because this argument is dastardly. Watch this. The second thing is that they're going to, how do I do this? So it's going to be locally implemented. Phase 1 is going to be employers doing it. They're giving us a reprieve because doctors are already saying that they need to do more testing before they mandate it with children. So in other words, people aren't going to be mandating the inoculations for children until they have more, quote, science. So this is them looking for This is them looking for a glimmer of hope or some type of datum that they can hang all of their conclusions on. So they're pumping the brakes on forcing kids to comply. That doesn't mean they're not going to do it. It means they're pumping the brakes. So remember, premise 1. It's not federal, it's going to be local. Part 1 of the first premise is that it's going to manifest as employers firing people. All right? Premise 2. At the local level, what is actually happening? Today, you had the CDC change its moratorium on evictions. That's Dr. Willow Walensky. She worships Satan. She's saying, this woman right there is saying, pull quote, "The emergence of the Delta variant has led to a rapid acceleration of community transmission in the United States, putting more Americans at increased risk, especially if they are unvaccinated. This moratorium is the right thing to do to keep people in their homes and out of congregate settings where COVID-19 spreads. It is imperative that public health authorities act quickly to mitigate such an increase of evictions, which could increase the likelihood of new spikes, blah, 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 blah." Jarrin, why are you showing me this? Here's the second premise. I think that what they're doing is they're setting up people for mass evictions come October. Now, why would I say that? Because the CDC just delayed the eviction notice. Now, think about this. When COVID was unleashed into the world, the federal government under President Trump, Department of Urban Housing, and basically if you had a federal loan to your mortgage, they said, we're not going to collect. We're not going to force people out of their homes if their contracts are broken because they can't meet the obligations that they've agreed to. So if you broke your agreement because you don't have money, because you can't have a job and you weren't working in 2020 because of the bioweapon, right? If you can't do that, then we're going to draw a line in the sand that says that you can't get evicted. You can't get kicked out until meow. Well, that has come, and the CDC just elongated it. First question. Why does the CDC have any influence over whether you are in your home or out of your home? Do you not see the blending of jurisdictional boundaries? Do you not see the interlacing of authorities? This is not right. This is not only what the agencies aren't supposed to do, and if you're going to sue in the future, this is one point of contention that I would sue, is that one agency that said we're going to delay collection and prevent the eviction of people from a federally backed loan is now making its decisions contingent upon a what I would argue is a non sequitur, what I would argue as someone who doesn't have the authority to do that. The CDC does not have the authority, which is a private run organization, by the way. The CDC does not have the authority to come in and tell the Department of Urban Housing, HUD, it doesn't have the ability to come into people who control the federally backed loans and tell people, we're going to extend the eviction notice. Now, this might come off as a good thing. You might see this as, well, Jarrin, they're not kicking people out. What's the deal? Why is this a bad thing? Keep in mind that the largest organization, Vanguard and BlackRock, are buying up properties. They're buying up single-family residences at echelons above reality pricing. So if a house comes on the market for $100,000, BlackRock, Vanguard, mostly BlackRock, and who do you think owns BlackRock, by the way? But BlackRock is going to be buying single-family residential homes for 20, 30, 40, 50 times more than the market value is going to be done. Now, why is that? You take BlackRock in conjunction with the World Economic Forum, whose first tenet of their global strategy is you will own nothing and you will be happy. They're going after homes. And what I think is going to happen, we're about to set this up further, is that you're going to have local employers fire people. These people who are going to be fired won't be able to pay their rent. The eviction was extended to October, which is, 2 months from now, October 3rd. The eviction is going to be scheduled to October. What happens when in October 3rd, all these new people have been fired because they haven't taken the vaccine? Do you not see the rock and the hard place that they're creating? And when that eviction timeline happens in early October, who do you think will be there to buy up all of these houses that are now being short-sailed on the market because the banks are left holding the notes or the feds are left holding the mortgages? They will conveniently sell them en masse, I argue, to people who are in a position to buy them. Who do you think is in a position to buy all of these homes? BlackRock. For those people who can't make the connection. Let's go further. Today it was announced that the U.S. Treasury today is auctioning off, tomorrow and the next day, they're auctioning off notes, bonds to keep government from debt ceiling. They're auctioning off the 3-year bonds and the 10-year bonds. This is poll quote. Says the Treasury is hoping the auctions held Tuesday and Wednesday will raise money to meet debt servicing requirement on $58.6 billion in the Treasury notes and bonds that are coming due, plus raising approximately $67.4 billion in new cash to keep the government operating. Next quote. It says, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, has called on Congress to quickly lift or suspend the borrowing limit to avoid the threat of the government defaulting on its debt, something Yellen said would be catastrophic. The Congressional Budget Office estimated in July that the Treasury could exhaust its maneuvering room in either October or November. The need to deal with the debt limit is likely to become embroiled in the fight between Democrats and Republicans over passage of pending infrastructure bills. You want me to translate this? The Treasury, who is tied to the Federal Reserve, is telling people, first of all, it's selling off its notes. It's selling off its deposits. It's doing that to get cash, to get immediate liquid, to be able to service debt. Now think about this. You're going to give off your assets from your balance sheet in order to service your liabilities. Okay, that's one maneuver to do it. But what you're really doing is you're just creating a ledger differential. What you're doing is you're allowing everybody else to think that you have a lot of cash to service the debt. Now, if you do this, you're creating an artificial situation where the public and the godless commie, corporate-backed Mockingbird media is going to go to Congress. And here's that back and forth, right? Like you're going to have the Democrats and the Republicans, and everyone's going to be back and forth and back and forth. And they're going to be able to score their points in their normal way. The Democrats are going to say, well, we need to take care of people. And the Republicans are going to be like, well, this isn't fiscally responsible. And they're going to be doing that. And you are going to be watching this going, Jarrin predicted that these people were going to be doing their same normal talking points. Why aren't we talking about the audits? Why aren't we talking about the forced injection? Why aren't we talking about the godless commies trying to limit and destroy my liberty? Why are we going through the motions as though Trump isn't president? Why are we going through things as though things aren't crumbling down around us? But that's what they're going to be presenting. They're going to be presenting. The Democrats are going to be like, they don't care about people and we need to invest in America. The Republicans, like people like James Lancaster, I don't think this is a responsible bill because it doesn't offset the debt and the deficit and the spending and the tax cuts and the Republican. Like, do not doubt me they're going to be doing this. Why? The time frame. Time frame's October. The time frame's November. What happens then? You're going to have local level lockdowns, local level employers firing people people who are going to be fired because they're not going to take the jab are going to find themselves in positions where they can't make money, can't make rent. Their houses are going to go on the market. Who's going to be buying these houses? Okay, keep going. Jarrin, you're pretty black-pilled. No. I'm not black-pilling anybody. Because at the very end of this is the stuff that you can do. The very end of this is the success stories that you can do right now to crush it. So you got to kind of build up the reason why you want to be motivated, the reason why you want to get in the game, so to speak, because this is it. Listen, like, we can laugh and smile at this stuff and just know that the enemy's out there. Like, Satan's prowling around. He's seeking a soul to devour. But you have to be sober and vigilant. This is the vigilant part of this. This is how these godless commies are distracting you. While they're talking about sex scandals and all this kind of stuff, what are they doing? They're maneuvering in order to crumble the U.S. dollar, in order to bottom out the U.S. housing market, in order to destroy the way that we do things. Why? So that they can own everything. So that you don't own anything and you will be happy. Here's how they're going to do it, I think. You ever heard of SDR? You know what SDR is? This is from Entrepreneur Magazine. Behind closed doors, the U.S. is quietly backing a replacement global currency. The U.S. dollar reset has been triggered by a global shift called SDR. This topic isn't covered in the mainstream media. That's why Jarrin's covering it right meow. Pull quote. Says, for the crypto haters, the replacement global currency is not a cryptocurrency. Not yet, anyway. I think it will be in the future, but not yet. The replacement global currency is an old favorite. It's called the SDR, Special Drawing Rights. What is SDR? SDR is an artificial global currency created by the International Monetary Fund. The International Monetary Fund is closely related to the World Economic Forum. Let's go on. Who suffers because of the SDR? This is after skipping some of the quote. You can find it on Entrepreneur Magazine. But nobody on the surface, and that's why it's pure genius. Listen to this. But what it does is create more government-issued currency out of thin air. Remember when the Treasury announced today that it's going to sell off its notes? What's the response of that? More cash in the system. What does more cash, what does more dollars in the system do? Listen, SDR, Special Drawing Rights, is a new layer built on top of a basket of other currencies. US dollars, euros, RMB, yen, pounds, etc. More SDR means more of these 5 major currencies will be created out of thin air. They're just going to print cash. They're coming up with reasons to print cash, whether that's a lot of people being evicted from their homes because they can't pay their mortgages, or if that's an infrastructure bill, or if that's anything else that could be unemployment, all sorts of stuff due to lockdowns. The value of the world's currency is issued by the countries will continue to be devalued over time at a faster rate. The price of assets like stocks and real estate will continue to rise. They're going to create a bubble, an artificial bubble. So if you have a country's currency in your bank account or own assets like stocks, this SDR global currency affects you greatly. Read that again. Basically, if you have US dollars or 401ks or Roth IRAs or a retirement account, this affects you. Now, Jarrin, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. And here's why. You should not be scared because there's plenty of stuff to stop it right now. The way that you stop this, believe it or not, is what Becca Grace was doing. Remember Becca Grace, the dirt cuticled person who was standing on the street corner with their great sign, I called it a dumb sign, with their great sign protesting and saying she's not going to do lockdowns? That's how you stop it. That's how you stop this, by not shutting down. Do you understand that these people are going to say words? You need to do a lockdown. You need to do the lockdown. And by them saying the words, if people obey what they do, if people obey what they say, this plan goes into action. Regardless of anything. And I'm going to say, like, the infrastructure bill isn't big enough to crack the dollar. The bottoming out of the mortgages isn't big enough to crack the dollar. What is big enough to crack the dollar? What is big enough to destroy the economy? Americans complying. If Americans don't comply, the dollar's not going to die. Ooh, don't comply, don't die. Right? So if you comply or comply and die, there's your shirt. Comply or die. Comply and die, I should say. Because if you push back, if you defend your freedom, if you protest, you don't lock down, you never again to election fraud, never again to lockdowns, never again to mandates. That's the linchpin in these godless commies. The linchpin is that you believe in the eyes, in the ears, then your brain. The key to reign in your brain is playing the movie. It's accepted the version of their reality. If you buy the lie, you're gonna comply. Man, I'm just on top of it tonight. If you buy the lie, you're gonna comply and you're gonna die. Buy the lie, comply, therefore die. That's the issue. That's what's going on. Fauci said, this is from Conservative Treehouse, Anthony Fauci claims with COVID there are no more individual rights. This is a couple days ago. Watch this from Dr. Anthony Fauci.
But I want to ask you about the reaction we've seen from prominent Republican governors. We've seen Florida Republican Governor DeSantis, Republican Governor Abbott of Texas, Governor Ducey in Arizona push back strongly against the notion of mask requirements. Let me read you a quote from Governor Ducey in Arizona. He said, Arizona does not allow mask mandates, vaccine passports, or discrimination in schools based on who is or isn't vaccinated. They are arguing that this is individual responsibility and individuals' right to decide. What is your answer to these are Republican governors in some of the largest states in our country?
Well, John, I disagree with them. I respectfully disagree with them. The fact is there are things that are individual responsibilities that one has, and there are things that have to do with you individually which also impact others. And the spread of infection that we're seeing now, the surge in cases, John, is impacting everyone in the country. So although you want to respect a person's individual right, when you're dealing with a public health situation, and we are in fact in a very serious public health challenge here with a pandemic, with a virus that has an extraordinary capability of spreading rapidly and efficiently from person to person. So a person's individual decision to not wear a mask not only impacts them, because if they get infected, even though they say it's my decision, if I get infected, I'll worry about that. But the fact is, if you get infected, even if you are without symptoms, you very well may infect another person who may be vulnerable, who may get seriously ill. So in essence, you are encroaching on their individual rights because you're making them vulnerable.
Sorry, I unmuted with my... Right, so did you catch the brilliance of the argument? Did you catch what he's saying? He's saying your rights infringe on their rights. First of all, okay, that's where the role of government is, to kind of arbitrate that. My rights should not infringe on other people's rights, and other people's rights should not infringe on my rights. So what's the answer? Do you understand that whenever I played the, what was the guy's name? I forget, because he probably doesn't believe Jesus. But the idea is that whenever this guy was saying last week, you're infringing on my rights because you're making me afraid, and I deserve to not be afraid. Fauci's going one step further. Fauci is saying that if you get affected, you may get someone sick. Did you catch the argument whenever I said it like that? If you get affected, even if you don't have symptoms, you may do this. Let me play for you again. Listen to that and identify what the argument is. Watch.
But I want to ask you about the wear a mask. Not only impacts them, because if they get infected, even though they say it's my decision, if I get infected, I'll worry about that. But the fact is, if you get infected, even if you are without symptoms, you very well may infect another person who may be vulnerable, who may get seriously ill. So in essence, you are encroaching on their individual rights because you're making them vulnerable.
And therein lies the argument. Therein lies the awesome opportunity that we have. I want to show you something. I didn't clip it perfectly. Let me clip this real fast, and I'll bring it up. I want to direct you to a fellow freedom patriot guy, a guy named Stu Peters. He has a show. Sadly, much bigger than this one, but not better, because he's got funding behind him. Anyway, so no hate to Stu. Stu Peters, August 3rd, Freedom Fighter Court victory in masking shots quarantine Alberta. This dude right there, Patrick King. Let me summarize. Patrick King is just a ho-hum nobody from Canada. This dude got a 1,200 ticket for being out and about, out in a butte, doing stuff, And whenever he went to court, what he did was he said, I want a subpoena for the evidence. Show me an isolated molecule of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Show me the evidence that this thing exists. He denied legal representation when he went to court. The judge subpoenaed because the judge had to advocate on behalf of the person who had no official legal representation. He subpoenaed the health official and he said, show me an isolated SARS-CoV-2 viral strain. which is COVID-19. They came back, they said we couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. They said in the court document, we can't show the evidence. Did you catch that? Health officials in Canada, Alberta, I know it's Canada, but I say Canada because it's Canada. But in Alberta, they said that there's no evidence for this. Well, then it kept going up and up and up and up and up. Long story short, this dude did nothing except for ask for truth, ask for evidence. And that's what we have to be prepared to do. Do you not understand, like back in January or May or February when I was like starting to pick up on this live stream, I identified, and I wish I could clip this and I had someone fancy could search my videos. This is a probabilistic argument. And that's why at the core, this is not a scientific argument. Did you hear what Fauci said? Fauci said, if you get sick, even if you can show asymptomatic symptoms or no symptoms, you may. See, you might just think that those are short words. If and may. They might just be 2 letters and 3 letters. If, may. If you get sick, you may do this. But do you not understand what that presents in the realm of the law? That gives so much latitude that it creates a big, fat, gaping hole that your rights cannot be molested. The government has no jurisdiction, I argue, has no authority if it can't show you that your rights are violating other people's, because you may indeed not be violating someone else's rights. Let me just be blunt. It's a probability. Show me the evidence that I am sick. How are you gonna test it? CDC came out last week saying the PCR tests were going to be discontinued in December because they're unreliable. The guy that created the PCR said the same thing. So how are you going to test for this? How do you test for Lambda? How do you test for Delta? How do you know? Can you show me a SARS-CoV-2 viral strain? I'll wait. I got all the time in the world, right? So show me the virus. Show me the money. Show me the virus. 1. 2, prove that I have it. Prove that I'm sick with that thing. Prove that I'm sick with that thing. And then 2, prove that because I am sick, that I made that person sick. Prove that. Prove the virus that can go straight through any mask, basically, unless it's like a, knoxed up N95 awesome mask. Prove that I made those people sick. Show me that truth. Show me that proof. That is, in my view, in a medical perspective, from a scientific perspective, right? Science is supposed to be repeatable. It's supposed to be falsifiable. It's supposed to be observable. It's supposed to be measurable. You can't measure some dude, some Luciferian coming out on all the Godless Comedy Network saying you may get sick, or if you get sick, you may make those people sick. You can't do that. That's a probability argument. It's not a truth argument. You're saying the chances are this. The chances are that. You can't prove. No one can prove that I made that person sick. You can't do it. Because you can't isolate us in a lab setting. You can't say this virus made you sick and this virus came from Jarrin 2 weeks ago. You can't do it. And because you can't do it, here's what I recommend. Remember when I was talking about the housing bubble and the treasury bills and the dollar crashing and BlackRock buying up all the single-family residential homes? Remember when I said that like 10 minutes ago? You bring this up to COVID right now. That dude right there, what was his name? Peter King? Not Peter King. What's your name? This guy right there. What's his name? Patrick King. Patrick King, that's exactly what he did. He did nothing brilliant. I mean, it was brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making fun of him. He did nothing that was really brilliant. He just asked for evidence. Show me the proof. Show me the truth of the proof that you are restricting my liberty because of. And here's his idea. The basis of the lockdown, the basis of the fine, the basis of the policy that restricted his liberty and everybody else's liberty, that makes people wear masks, that prevent people from going to school or locking down businesses or getting fired from their employees. The basis of all of that is the health law, the health policy. Challenge that on that basis. Show me the evidence, health law. Show me the evidence, health policy, science people, lab coats, PhDs on walls. Show me the proof, the scientific proof that I'm the guy that got those people sick. Show me the specific evidence that this virus exists. Show it to me. Because if not, you got nothing. Well, Jarrin, I'm a skeptic. I'm a skeptic, and I still don't believe that. They're still going to lock you down. Like Rand Paul said, they ain't got enough jail space for everybody. They don't. We outnumber them a gazillion to like 2. They can't do this. Now you might think, Jarrin, you're just kind of like talking. If people understood what courage does to weak people, then they would not say uninformed and cowardly statements like that. They would not say, well, I'm just one person, what can I do? Do you not understand? Someone standing with conviction and truth on their side, in bold defiance of tyranny, do you not understand what that does to everybody else around? Do you not understand that that's actually one of the things that makes the gospel presentation so effective? You are going to say something that to the rest of the world, British, comes off as stupid and dumb and makes you look like a moron. But if you don't care that you look like a moron, if you don't care that they're going to arrest you, if you don't care that they're going to tell you, you should, what power do they have? And that's the issue. The power is what? Words. For those people specifically that are going to get fired because their employers are going to lock you down and shut you out and terminate you, make them fire you. Make them terminate you. Then when they fire you, collect unemployment. Absolutely. Collect unemployment because they fired you. And then sue them for cause. And then whenever they point to a health policy, sue them on the basis that their health policy is unethical or illegal or immoral or whatever. And if that goes to the health department or health facilities or whatever, sue them. Keep going for the truth. And like a rabid dog, lockjawed on, don't let them wiggle you out. Don't let them, Kansas City shuffle. Don't let them, get your attention over here. Stay locked, focused on the truth. Jarrin, I can't do this. I don't know if I can do this. This is a tall order, and I don't really want discomfort. And that's just the thing that I think people need to start recognizing. Stop thinking about it in terms of pain. Stop thinking about it in terms of I'm not going to get money or I'm going to lose my job or bad things are going to happen. Start thinking it in terms of I get to be part of the revitalization of America. I get to be part of winning back our freedoms. I get to be part of overcoming these godless commies. And if that's not the case, if God calls us home, then to God be the glory. Amen, let's go. If the godless commies keep going, they're gonna win. Until and unless we the people just say no. I'm not gonna do this. I want to run through a couple other things just real fast as we head in. Do you not understand that the FDA is going to be pushing for Pfizer? Expected to be pushing to accept their thing here in September. Another idea, this doesn't really match anything, but it was making the rounds. A good friend of mine, Dr. Everett Piper here in Oklahoma, was talking about how Satanists are suing for the right to abortion. Now, I spoke about this back in April. I spoke about this back in March. That's repulsive and that's repugnant, but think about what this is actually doing. Just like the Dr. Fauci, if you get sick, then you may get other people sick. I would ask the question. I would countersue right here, and I'd be like, where do the Satanists think their rights come from? Where do they think their rights come from? Sue them. Sue the government whenever they, this is in Texas, whenever this stuff happens, sue to define where your rights come from, because the Declaration of Independence identifies it coming from our Creator, God. From a biblical worldview, Christian worldview, not Judeo-Christian values, a biblical worldview. Coming from a biblical worldview, your rights come from God. Now, if your rights come from God, does God give you the right to an abortion? No. There's no such thing as a right to an abortion, because there's no such thing as a right to murder. It's not, God does not sanction murder. In fact, he does the exact opposite. Exodus 20 told the Israelites way back when thou shalt not murder. What is abortion? It's murder. So no, Satanists, you're going to go to hell because you don't believe the gospel, repent of your sin, and trust in the resurrected Christ. But there needs to be someone identifying or asking the question, countersuing or suing some court or something. This is where I need to get better at identifying where to go. But where do your rights come from? Where do they come from? If it's social convention, then that means all of us just get to decide what's the issue, and that's just against the letter of the law. That's just against what the Constitution says. See, this is the opportunity that people have. And I mean, look at this. Hungary tells the EU, we're not going to teach our kids about LGBTQ. We're not going to teach our kids that stuff. Pull quote. Says the European Commission called it a disgrace whenever Hungary said we're going to protect our children. Quote, it uses the protection of children as an excuse to discriminate against people because of their sexual orientation. But look at what the Prime Minister said. The national referendum on the law would be held, cementing the right of the Hungarian people to assert a sovereign say in how their country is run. Amen. Americans need to do just that. Americans need to assert their sovereignty. They need to assert the fact that they have the authority to tell people no. Because when the godless commies are telling us what to do, we have the ability to say no. And I'm suggesting that you make them make you. You make them fire you. You make them compel you to do these things. We outnumber them a lot to almost nothing. And this is the path forward. Last thing I want to say, and I just want to put this on your radar because this is what's up. This is, you know what, I'll save this for tomorrow. I'll wrap up. The idea is that these godless commies are definitely on the move. They're definitely on the march. And people need to understand the way that information is received comes in through the eyes and in through the ears. It dominates your mind and how you think about stuff, the lens that you interpret reality through, and that the prize is your soul. If these people have you afraid, then if you are afraid, you're going to be making decisions based in fear. And that's not good. That's actually really, really bad. You have the ability to say no. You have the ability to stand with courage and speak truth. The truth is, they can't isolate the virus. The truth is, they can't prove that you are sick when you are sick. And 3, they can't prove that if you are sick, that you made that person sick. Those are 3 things they can't do. Those are 3 things they can't prove. And in a court of law, you stay dogged and determined on that. No one can prove that. No one can prove that. No one can prove here's an isolated SARS-CoV-2 viral strain. Can't do it. 2, no one can prove how to determine that you are sick from said SARS-CoV-2. All the methods of them testing have been proven false. The PCR tests, everything else, it proves to a variance and a disparity. And then 3, no one, and here's the kicker, here's the one that just should kill the pandemic. Let's assume that COVID exists. Let's assume you are sick. You're sick as a dog, right? How do you show that person got that person sick? How do you show that? How do you prove that? You can't. That's the art of virology. You can understand the science of how it could happen, but the art is how do we know that happened? Because here's the deal. If they're saying that you got that person sick, then you are culpable. You are guilty. Well, American jurisprudence, because it's based on Sir William Blackstone from British common law, and British common law is based on the book of Deuteronomy, innocence is you're innocent until proven guilty. Why? Because the book of Deuteronomy says that things are established by 2 or more witnesses. You have to have evidence. There needs to be evidence that something is true, that something happened. And if there is no evidence that the thing happened, then the person who is alleged is not punished because the allegations were not evidenced. The culpability, me being guilty of making you sick, cannot be thoroughly, incredibly, scientifically, factually established. Therefore, I am not guilty. You can't prove my guilt. That is the argument to make to your employer. That's the argument to make to the medical community. That's the argument to make to the government. That is the argument to be made. Now, here's my challenge. You got to be in the arena to make that argument. You got to be the one that's fired to make that argument. You got to be the one that's going through pain to make that argument. street corner with the protest sign, fired by your employer, speaking to someone in the medical community, speaking to your state legislature or whoever. Like, you have to be in the arena to make that argument. That's the issue. Now think about this, because let's link this back to the bigger, broader thing. I talked to you about an alternative currency. I talked to you about people trying to gaslight and destroy the U.S. dollar. I talked to you about people trying to position themselves to get a lot of people evicted, to gobble up and buy up all the homes. Like, I talked to you about that. If Americans stand up meow versus COVID and stop that dead in its tracks, I think what would happen as a natural response to that are people becoming more vigilant at their local level. And what do you think? That's live local. Live the essence of what I'm trying to suggest to you and encourage you to do is live local. Why do you preach the gospel point blank? Because that person, you don't want that person to go to hell. I don't want anyone to go to hell. I want them to have justice, right? I want God to have vengeance, but I don't want anyone to go to hell. So first and foremost, I don't want anyone to go to hell because I'm a Christian. I want people to come to Christ. Amen. The other way of that is if you come to Christ legitimately, like sincerely, you're not going to think like a godless commie. You're not going to have a spirit of fear. You're not going to have bad judgment. You're not going to have unsound thinking. You're going to think clearly about something, or at least be open to the fact that you should think clearly about something. And if you are able to succinctly and directly point out that you can't prove that person's guilt for making that person sick, that is a true statement. That is an unverifiable thing to do. There's no science involved in that. And because it's not a legal situation, at least not yet, you can't determine that thing happens. And if you go to a Christian who believes in Jesus and you say that you can't determine that this thing happens, no matter what anybody says, no matter how high of a probability that they point it to, not to mention the fact that the death rate is less than 0.05%, right? Like, we know that. That's hard science. If you go to someone and you actually say that stuff, if they're honest with themselves, if they're consistent in their worldview, then that's going to change their mind. And you do all of that with your words. So as the godless commies are dictating and shaping behaviors with their words, if you speak the truth to your people at your level, the local level, with love and compassion and concern, but courage, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to them? All this truth coming in their ears, they're going to shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. I don't believe that stuff. Fauci didn't declare it. Fauci didn't deem it so. That's why you live local, people. The live local is the response to all of this. It is an offensive method. Now, one thing I said, I talked to a guy today at a shop. He's talking about ammo. Veteranammo.store. Veteranammo.store. Got plenty of subscriptions still available. I was talking to this guy about ammo because I talked to everybody about ammo. And he was like, and he finally got it. Like, he pieced it together. People who have a consistent supply of ammo are able to hit the targets, and that way, if they're needed, should there be any need for patriots to be able to hit targets repeatedly, consistently, with good aims, that would be a bulwark against any kind of federal action. That would be a bulwark against any kind of UN action. And his eyes, and I was like, that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, man. I'm doing what I'm doing so people use the firearms, they use the ammunitions to become proficient, not only to defend themselves, their property, their family, their livelihoods, but also in the event that the Second Amendment is actually called up for its historic purpose, people are going to be able to be effective at solving problems. You teach your kids to love the country, you teach your kids to love Jesus, have them read the Bible, and then you shorten your supply chain. It's a community resilient strategy that opposes the godless commies. Flies directly in the face, like all these flies are. It's like swapping them out. Okay, I want to do some housekeeping, and then we're going to preach the gospel, and we'll be done. Friday, I'm not going to be doing a show. I had Clay Clark call me today, and he invited me to do a War Room live stream session on Friday from 3 in the afternoon to 6. It's going to be 3 hours. Clay's going to have me and Jackson Lawmeyer, the guy running for U.S. Senate here in Oklahoma. So the three of us are going to kind of be the hosts. I've never done like a war room type thing, but it's going to be ran kind of like Steve Bannon does his thing. A couple different people have approached Clay. He's got a bigger audience and he's growing and whatnot. But there's a lot of people around Clay that are like, you need to talk to Jarrin. So Clay called me and he's like, hey, you want to come do stuff? And I said, yeah, sure, we'll try it. We'll see what's going on. So heads up, no live stream Friday, but I'm sure there will be information on the thing with Clay Clark on Friday. The next thing is I want to bring this idea to you. So this is my job, right? I try to bring value, right? This is what we do. There's links in the description, PayPal, Venmo, Subscribestar, whatnot. As of recent, and this is only to my bosses. This is only to the people who want to be my boss, right? Here's the deal. I have had a lot of people come to me and offer me contracts for money to do what I do, but to say what they want me to say about their products. And I've said since day one, I'm not taking corporate money. Here is my question to you. I'm not going to sign any contracts to ever do anything. Not going to do it because as soon as I do that, I'm dependent on that stuff. I would like your responses in whatever comment section that you're in, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, big Telegram one. Maybe we'll do a chat tonight about this. I'd like your thoughts about this. What I care about most is the trust that you and I have. That's what I value. That's what I want, and candidly, I don't care about anything else. That everything else is secondary. There is a growing movement, and Clay talked to me about this. The live local idea is starting to manifest in different areas. You see, whenever I played Rush Limbaugh at the very beginning of the broadcast, in fact, let's listen to Rush one more time to kind of give us the frame. Rush, where you at? Rush, where did I put you, Rush? Where you at, Rush? Okay, there. Listen to what Rush has to say. I'm not going to listen to the whole thing. I'll stop him whenever he's making the point that I'm saying. Listen to what he's saying. I want Rush to frame this idea. Watch this.
We've got the basics. We have millions and millions of people call here and now. Rush, you always told us. You told us when it's going to be time to panic. Well, is it time to panic? Well, let me just tell you, folks, it's never going to be time to panic because we're never going to give up. We're not going to give up on America. I'm not. I don't think most of you are either. And while we have that attitude of not giving up, we are constantly going to be searching, strategizing, coming up with ways to prevail.
That's my point. That's my point. That's what, thank you, Rush. He's in heaven talking to Jesus because he's a Christian and he believed the gospel. That's what I'm talking about. Thinking of ways to prevail. I want to peel back an onion and I want to peel back the curtain and let you see behind kind of the podcast live stream. I hate the word podcast, by the way. I want to pull back the curtain and kind of show you what's going on. There's a lot of us people, patriot, truth people on the internet doing all sorts of stuff. I am in a box. I have the most glorious beard of all of us. And I am an O-list celebrity. Of course, you know that. With that, there's a shifting of information consumption. And the people, the companies that usually advertise on Fox and radio, I mean, when Rush died, the radio advertising plummeted. In short, what's happening is that businesses are recognizing that people with audiences and live streams, those are the people they need to market through. Okay? So there's a lot of advertising dollars shifting over to the live stream, podcast, basically people like me. Okay? And I get a lot of pitches every week, sometimes multiple times a day, to sign up. I had someone I told you offer me $35,000 a month to come to do their streaming service. They were going to launch something. I've had other people say, pitch this product and we'll give you X amount of dollars every month. And it's really weird too. They say that they have to have certain things. For example, hold on, give me 10 seconds. Hold on, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Hold on. Okay. All right. So there is a company. Now, I have not been paid. I'm trying to demonstrate to you what I'm talking about. I was approached, I was called, and I was sent a product that I have not used, and I have not been paid to tell you about this product. But I was sent this product to test this product, to then sign a contract for a company to then tell you about this product repeatedly. And so if I told you about this product repeatedly, then I would get paid money every single time that I talked about this product. Does that make sense? So clearly, I have not been paid to do this. Now, here's my point. This is not about like anything. This is about the fact that patriots are starting to recognize that their dollars are bullets. That's what this is. Patriots are starting to recognize that their dollars are bullets, and patriotic companies that have advertised on conservative shows and podcasts and stuff like that, they're starting to now put all of their money into people like me, Clay Clark, and all these other people. Okay? So I'm bringing you... So anyway, like I was given a sat phone. I was given this sat phone by the owner of the company to talk about this. I have not been paid to do this. Like I get nothing for that. But she sent me these sat phones, and she's actually got a great story. She's an immigrant from Iraq, a Christian. She just great person, great story. I told her, I said, I'm not going to sign a contract. I'm not going to do it. So I don't. Here's the question I have. I have a lot of people offering to give me promo codes that if I mentioned here, if you go to them and buy those products and put in a Jarrin promo code, then Jarrin gets something every single time someone does something. But there's no contract, and the reason why that's important to me is that I don't want anyone to ever tell me what to say. I don't want anyone to ever be able to say you can't preach the gospel. That is the real reason. Because if the gospel cuts in front of anything else, the gospel is the most important thing. Jesus Christ is the most important thing. He's more important than Trump. He's more important than America. He's more important than me. He's more important than you. I am going to preach the gospel unashamedly. And I never want to be contractually obligated to not be able to say that. And that means that if someone who gives me money does something that the gospel goes against, then the gospel necessarily has to conquer and overcome that thing, that person, that business, that politician, that financial arrangement. Whatever it is, it must be subjected to the gospel. That is why I don't want corporate sponsorship. That is why I avoid contracts. That is why I will never do contracts. This is not a contract that tells me what I have to say or when I have to say it. It is recognizing, as Rush pointed out, there are different ways that patriots are innovating and responding to something. And so I ask you, my bosses. You guys are my boss. For those of you all who are my bosses, by the way. For those of you all who are just like going to give me your opinion, it's like, okay, thanks. For my bosses, is this something that I'm allowed to do? What do you think? Is this something that people aren't going to be able to control what I say, but they're going to give me an opportunity to direct you to companies that compete with the godless commies? Because that's another aspect of it. If I'm going to preach live local, and I am, and I should, and everyone else should, then people need to understand that their dollars are bullets, and they need to put them where they're going to compete against the monopolies, compete against the godless commies, but also, more importantly, build up companies that are Christian, love America, support civic education, support defendants of the Constitution, support good political candidate, like all that other kind of stuff. Like, our dollars are bullets, and we need to get right with doing this stuff. At the same time, I want to have the integrity, and I want to bring this to you, and I say, this is what I've been presented. Clay brought an idea based on a couple different other things. The live local is picking up, like people are starting to catch on to it, and they're starting to come around to the idea that, yeah, we need to really start using our dollars as bullets. It's like, yeah. Yes, been saying this for a little while. And so with that, I want to know what you guys have to say. Should Jarrin do this? Is this something that would jive? Understanding that I don't sign any contracts, but understanding that if you buy these products, that I get money in response because I'm effectively sending my audience to these people. But they don't get to say what I do. I'm not dependent on them. All that other kind of stuff. I hope that makes sense. I might do a voice chat about this tonight, and I really care about this. Not only, for me and my ability to monetize what I do, this is my job. Like, I want to get paid for what I do. At the same time, though, I want to make sure that it's a good fit for us, because if it's not a good fit for us, I don't want to do it. So that's where I'm at. But most importantly, like always, The gospel of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ took our place because we deserve to go to hell. That doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound nice. In fact, a lot of people hate that. And the Jews hated it whenever they killed Jesus. In fact, they killed Jesus because they didn't want to agree with that. They didn't want to lose their place or their nation. Go back to John chapter 11. They look at Jesus when Jesus shouts out to Lazarus, "Lazarus, come forth!" And he comes forth and he raises from the dead. The Jews look at this dude who just got resurrected from the dead and they're like, crap. They look at Jesus who just resurrected this guy and they're like, yeah, we got to kill this guy. So they see the Christ that's prophesied from the Old Testament and the response is to kill him, even though they see him doing miracles all over the place. Think about how idolatrous and hateful these people are. These people hated Jesus so much that they nailed him on a cross. They lied about him, they unjustly convicted him, and they manipulated evidence and testimony, and they manipulated the thinking and the priorities of Rome to crucify this guy. And Jesus did that. He let that happen. Matthew 26:51. He could have called all the angels, just nuke them right there in place. He didn't. He didn't do it because he loves us. He loves us enough to take the punishment for our sin. And that's what the gospel is. The gospel is that you and I have sinned and we broke God's law. Because God is the perfect judge, he has to punish that sin. He will punish that sin. Jesus took the punishment for our sin. And this is how awesome God is. He chose to do something that makes no sense in a worldly perspective. Paul writes that the gospel, I am not ashamed, for it is the power to salvation. But he says, we preach Christ crucified. The most important thing to a Christian is the fact that Jesus Christ died on the cross in my place for my sin, so I don't have to die for my sin. And that he rose from the grave. You believe that, you get to spend eternity with Christ, because that means that you've turned away from your sin. That means that you look on Jesus and only Jesus to go to heaven. Think about all the people who hate Jesus. They're going to do all sorts of stuff. They're going to lie, cheat, steal. They're going to form cabals. They're going to scheme. They're going to manipulate. It's what they do. Godless commies are going to godless commie. I don't get angry at the fact that the godless commie is godless commie. I get angry at the fact that because they godless commie, the justice doesn't happen. And I cry out to God, say, God, when is the justice coming? And then I repent and I realize, you know what? God saved me while I was still a sinner. While I was still flipping him the bird and cursing and doing all sorts of stuff against him, he was loving and took my place. And I don't deserve that. And you don't deserve that. But that's what happened. So that's the gospel. And I ask you to turn from your sin, believe in the resurrected Christ as the only way to salvation. Not only so you go to heaven, but so you don't go to hell, and you get to enjoy the richness of eternity with the almighty, infinite creator, savior, friend, father. It's going to be a great time. I appreciate your time tonight. Covered a lot of different things. Let me know what you think about in the comments below. I am the Jarrin Jackson. I love our America. Now go to war.